My name is Chloe. To most people, Thanksgiving means family, warmth, and belonging. To me, it meant a single text from my father that shattered everything. You're not welcome at Thanksgiving. I stared at the words, my fingers trembling, my heart burning with a mixture of rage and grief. For as long as I can remember, my father saw my face as a flaw because of the dark, wine-colored birthmark covering my left cheek. Neighbors whispered. Classmates mocked me. And my father, the man who was supposed to protect me, called me the stain on our family picture. So when his message came, it wasn't a surprise, but it was the last straw. I typed 2 words back, enjoy it. What he didn't know was that while he excluded me from his table, I had already built my own inside a $12 million mountain ranch. When I put my phone down that night, the glow of the screen still burned in my eyes. My father's words didn't need to be long, just 6 of them carved into me like a knife. You're not welcome at Thanksgiving. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the reflection in the dark window. The birthmark across my cheek seemed darker in the glass, almost mocking me. For years I tried to cover it with makeup, to hide it behind my hair, but nothing ever erased the fact that to my father, it was the family's shame. My phone buzzed again. It wasn't him. It was my best friend, Ashley. Ashley. Hey, you coming to your dad's dinner tomorrow? Me. No. He uninvited me. Ashley. What? Why? Me. Because I exist. Because of this face. Because I'll never be enough for him. I expected her to pity me, but instead her reply came sharp and quick. Ashley. Then screw him. You don't need his table. Make your own. I laughed bitterly, though tears blurred my vision. Make my own table. The words rang in my ears. I remembered being 12, begging my father to let me sit at the main table during Thanksgiving. The relatives gathered, plates clattering, laughter filling the air. I sat on a stool in the kitchen corner, while my cousins took turns sneaking glances at my cheek. Finally, I stood up, plate in hand, trying to join the big table. My father blocked me with one hand and muttered low enough for only me to hear. Not tonight, Chloe. People are watching. That memory never left me. And now, decades later, he didn't even bother with excuses. He just slammed the door shut with a text. I wanted to throw my phone, scream until the walls shook, but something inside me shifted instead. The tears dried faster than usual. The anger hardened into something sharper, something that felt almost liberating. Ashley called me. I picked up. Chloe, listen. You've been bending over backwards for their approval your whole life. What has it gotten you? Nothing. I whispered. Exactly. So stop playing by their rules. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. For the first time, I realized she was right. I didn't need their rules. I didn't need their table. My father thought excluding me was power. He had no idea I'd spent years building a life outside of his shadow, a life grander than he could imagine. I pressed my palm against my cheek, feeling the rough edges of the birthmark, and whispered to myself, you won't define me anymore. Tomorrow, I'll show you what it means to be excluded. And that was the moment the plan began to take shape. The night after my father's text, sleep never came. Memories came instead, memories that had been buried but never healed. People always assumed my family was perfect. My father, Richard, the respected banker with crisp suits and a commanding voice. My mother, Anna, graceful and kind in public, the kind of woman neighbors praised for her hospitality. And then there were my siblings Ethan, the golden boy who excelled at sports and academics, and Lily, the angelic youngest, praised for her beauty and charm. Together, they looked like the cover of a holiday magazine. And then there was me, Chloe, the middle child with the wine-colored birthmark splashed across her cheek like a scarlet letter. When I was little, my mother used to hold my face in her hands and whisper, "You're beautiful no matter what." But after she passed away when I was 13, everything shifted. My father grew colder, harder. He remarried within a year, to a woman named Valerie who always made me feel like an unwanted guest in my own home. I can still hear her voice at family dinners, dripping with condescension. Maybe Chloe should stay out of the photos. It's a shame. The lighting emphasizes her birthmark. And my father never defended me. Not once. He would just tighten his jaw, as if agreeing silently. Thanksgiving became the cruelest reminder of my place. Ethan carved the turkey while Dad patted his shoulder proudly. Lily passed the cranberry sauce, her smile earning applause. And me? I set the table, poured the drinks, and hoped no one would comment on my face. But they always did. Cousins giggled. Aunts whispered. Even strangers invited to dinner occasionally asked the dreaded question, "What happened to your face?" My father would change the subject swiftly, pretending I wasn't even in the room. After years of this, I stopped asking for a seat at the table. I stopped fighting for space in their perfect picture. Instead, I learned how to disappear. But disappearing left scars deeper than the one on my skin. It taught me to measure my worth by other people's approval, especially my father's. And no matter how much I achieved grades, scholarships, even my first business venture, he never looked at me with the pride I craved. That's why his text hurt so differently. It wasn't just about this year's Thanksgiving. It was the culmination of every dismissal, every cold stare, every whispered comment that told me I didn't belong. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the framed photo on my nightstand, our last family picture before Mom died. Everyone smiling, except me. My father had angled me to the side so the birthmark barely showed. That picture used to make me ache for acceptance. Now, it made me burn with resolve. If my father wanted to exclude me, fine. But I would make sure the world saw me not as the stain on the Harris family, but as Chloe, the woman who built her own table. And that table would stand inside a $12 million ranch. Most people who knew me from my father's world assumed I lived small. They thought I was scraping by, drifting job to job, a shadow compared to Ethan the banker and Lily the boutique owner. That's what Dad told anyone who asked. Chloe? She's finding her way. His tone always meant failing, but that was only because no one knew the truth. The truth was that I had built something far bigger than they could imagine. At 19, while they were busy attending galas and posing for photos, I was working nights at a cafe, saving every dollar. I taught myself digital marketing, then flipped it into freelance contracts. From there, I launched an online business selling handcrafted home decor, which exploded when influencers picked it up. By 25, I had reinvested every cent into real estate. By 30, I had closed my first $1 million deal. And now, at 32, I owned a $12 million mountain ranch tucked away in Colorado. I remember the first time I drove up its winding road. Aspen trees lined the path like guardians, their leaves shimmering gold. At the top, the ranch spread wide, rolling green pastures, a lake that mirrored the sky, stables with sleek horses, and, at the heart, a sprawling timber frame lodge with glass walls that opened to the valley below. The realtor had looked at me with wide eyes when I signed the papers. "It's not just a home," she said softly. "It's a statement," and it was. Every beam, every acre was proof that I wasn't the weak, pitiful daughter my father had painted me to be. It was mine, built without his name, his money, or his approval. I kept it a secret from my family. Part of me wanted to shout it in their faces, but another part savored the silence. Let them believe I was nothing. Let them look at me with pity, because when the truth finally came out, the shock would be delicious. That's why, when I read my father's text, "You're not welcome at Thanksgiving," the decision felt almost poetic. He had slammed a door. I would open another, bigger one. I paced the ranch's wide balcony that night, looking out at the valley, shrouded in moonlight. The air was crisp, the mountains sharp against the sky. I imagined a long table stretching across the great hall, candles flickering, laughter echoing, not the cold, judgmental silence of my father's dinners, but real warmth. I whispered to myself, "If he excludes me, I'll host Thanksgiving without him, and it will be better than anything he could dream of." The thought sent a thrill down my spine. I didn't want revenge, not exactly. I wanted freedom. I wanted to show him, show them all, that the girl with the birthmark on her cheek wasn't a family embarrassment. She was the one who had built a kingdom in the mountains. And now, it was time to fill it with people who deserved a seat at my table. The morning after I decided to host Thanksgiving at my ranch, I woke up with a fire in my chest. No more sitting outside the frame of someone else's perfect picture. This time, I would paint my own. I grabbed a notebook and began scribbling names. Not family, not the ones who had cut me out of their lives with cruel words and sideways glances. No, I wanted people who had been there when it mattered. First on the list was Ashley. Of course, the friend who had picked up the phone when my father hung up on me. Then my old college roommate, Brooke, who once shared half her meal plan with me when I couldn't afford groceries. My mentor, Marcus, who taught me to negotiate like a shark. Even my ranch hands, Luis and Maria, who cared for the horses as if they were their own. As the list grew, I realized something. These people were more family to me than the blood relatives who shunned me. I called Ashley first. Me. So, how would you feel about spending Thanksgiving in the mountains? Ashley. The mountains? Chloe, what are you talking about? Me. I'm hosting dinner. At my place. Ashley. Wait, your apartment? I grinned, savoring the secret. Me. Not exactly. Just pack a bag and trust me. One by one, I made the calls. The reactions were priceless: confusion, excitement, disbelief. Most of them had no idea I owned property like this, and I didn't explain yet. I wanted the reveal to happen in person, when they drove up that winding road and saw the ranch unfold before their eyes. Next came the planning. I walked through the great hall, its vaulted ceilings begging for candlelight and garlands. I imagined a table running down the center, set with golden chargers, polished silver, and crystal glasses that would catch the glow of the fire. The kitchen buzzed in my mind with the scent of roasted turkey, sweet potatoes, and pumpkin pies. I hired a local chef I trusted, someone who understood the difference between cold perfection and food that made you feel at home. This meal has to be unforgettable, I told him. He smiled knowingly. Don't worry, I'll cook like it's for family. For the first time in years, I felt giddy about Thanksgiving. Not anxious, not ashamed, giddy. The final touch was posting a single photo to my private social media. Nothing dramatic, just the ranch bathed in morning sunlight, with the caption, "Can't wait for this year's Thanksgiving feast," surrounded by the people who matter most. I knew word would spread. My cousins, always glued to their screens, would see it. Maybe even my father. And when they did, they'd realize something was happening that they weren't part of. And that was exactly the point. This year, the table would finally be mine. The day finally came, crisp and clear, the mountains wearing a crown of snow at their peaks. As the sun climbed higher, the ranch came alive. Trucks and cars crunched up the gravel road, tires spitting dust as headlights flashed through the trees. I stood at the entrance of the lodge, nerves buzzing in my stomach. My birthmark caught the morning light in a way that once would have made me want to hide. But today, I let it shine. Ashley was the first to step out of her car, her mouth falling open. "Chloe, what is this place?" I smiled, opening my arms. "Welcome to my home." She blinked at the sprawling lodge, the stables, the shimmering lake in the distance. "You've been hiding this from me?" "Not hiding," I said softly, waiting for the right moment. More guests arrived: Brooke, Marcus, Luis, and Maria with their children, neighbors I'd grown close to over the years. Each reaction was the same: shock, disbelief, then laughter and excitement as they realized the woman they thought they knew was more than she seemed. Inside, the great hall glowed with candlelight and garlands of pine and holly. A roaring fire crackled in the stone hearth, throwing warmth into every corner. The long table stretched down the center, draped in linen, set with golden chargers and polished crystal. Platters of food covered its surface: roasted turkey with rosemary sprigs, bowls of creamy mashed potatoes, honey-glazed carrots, cranberry sauce jeweled like rubies. I raised a glass as everyone took their seats. "Before we eat, I want to say something." My voice trembled, but only for a second. Most of you know me as the girl who was always a little different, the girl with the mark on her face. Some of you know more that I was never truly accepted at my father's table. This year, he made sure of it with one text message. Gasps circled the room. Ashley reached for my hand under the table. I continued. "But what he doesn't know is that I already have a family. You. The people who stood by me when no one else would. Family isn't blood. Family is who shows up for you." Applause broke out, and tears pricked my eyes as I saw faces smiling back at me, faces filled with love, not judgment. Dinner began, and the hall filled with the sound of clinking glasses, laughter, and stories. Ashley teased Brooke about college memories. Luis's little boy fed turkey scraps to the ranch dog under the table. Marcus raised a toast to the woman who turned exile into empire. I sat at the head of the table, soaking in every detail. For once, I didn't feel like the outsider or the mistake. I felt whole. Later, as dessert was served pumpkin pie, pecan tart, apple crumble, I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of the table. Candles flickering, plates half empty, people mid-laughter. It was real, messy, beautiful. I hesitated for only a moment before posting it publicly. Caption: Happy Thanksgiving from my mountain home. Grateful for every soul at this table. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't have to. The photo spoke for itself. The massive lodge, the dozen guests, the warmth radiating through the frame. It was a world my father couldn't ignore. As I hit share, I felt a rush of something I hadn't felt in years. Not revenge, not even triumph, freedom. The ranch echoed with music and laughter late into the night. People danced near the fireplace, kids ran through the halls, and the air was thick with joy. Standing on the balcony, glass in hand, I looked out over the valley glowing under the full moon. This was my Thanksgiving, my family, my life. And I knew, somewhere in town, my father was staring at his phone, realizing he had lost control of me forever. It didn't take long. By the next morning, my phone was vibrating off the nightstand. Message after message. Missed calls stacked like bricks in a wall. I rubbed my eyes and scrolled. First, my cousin Hannah. Chloe? What the hell? Where are you? That ranch? Is that yours? Then Lily, my younger sister. Why didn't you tell us? Why are you flaunting this online? And finally, my father. Just one text. Call me. Now. I stared at it, the screen burning hot in my hand. A lifetime of conditioning told me to obey, to fold myself small and rush to his command. But this time, I let the phone buzz until it silenced. Ashley shuffled into the kitchen, her hair a mess from the guest room bed. Wow. Judging by that face, I'm guessing they saw the post? I nodded. Oh, they saw it. The calls didn't stop. Every 15 minutes, my phone lit up. First Dad, then Lily, then Ethan. Sometimes they left voicemails, their voices tight, incredulous. Chloe, you embarrassed us all. Posting photos like that without telling anyone? Do you have any idea how this makes the family look? That one was Ethan. Always worried about appearances. Then Lily's shaky voice. I don't get it. You're rich? You have this huge ranch? Why wouldn't you share that with us? As if sharing had ever gone both ways. By afternoon, the voicemails turned sharper. My father's deep growl spilled through the speaker. You need to explain yourself. People are asking questions, and I won't have you dragging this family name through the mud. I nearly laughed. Dragging the family name through the mud? This, from the man who told me not to sit at the Thanksgiving table because people were watching? Ashley placed a mug of coffee in front of me. You don't owe them anything. I know. But still, my hand shook as I held the mug. For years, all I'd wanted was one thing: recognition. Now that I finally had it, it came coated with accusations and guilt. That evening, I posted again, not words, just another photo. The ranch bathed in golden sunset, guests laughing around a bonfire. My caption was only 3 words. This is family. The backlash was immediate. Ethan texted furiously. Stop this nonsense. You're humiliating us. Lily, please talk to Dad before he loses it completely. And my father, again. You're coming over tomorrow. We will settle this face to face. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked out to the balcony, the mountain air biting at my skin. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one scrambling for a seat at his table. He was the one clawing for mine. Ashley joined me outside, pulling her coat tight. You realize what's happening, right? For the first time they need you, and that terrifies them. I smiled faintly, touching the birthmark on my cheek. For so long, it had been the symbol of my exclusion. Now, It was proof of my survival. The phone buzzed again in my pocket. I didn't bother looking. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow, I'll answer. And when I do, it won't be as the ashamed daughter he once silenced. It will be as Chloe, the woman who finally decided she was enough. By the next morning, the silence in the lodge felt heavier than the mountain air. My guests had gone home, but echoes of their laughter still lingered in the halls. I stood by the window, coffee in hand, watching frost creep across the glass. My phone buzzed again. This time, I didn't ignore it. Dad. I let it ring twice before I pressed accept. Chloe. His voice came low, controlled. That tone he always used when he thought he was in charge. Dad. My reply was calm, steady. We need to talk. What is all this? That ranch, those pictures plastered online? Do you have any idea how this blindsided the family? I took a slow breath. The family? Or you? A pause. I imagined his jaw tightening on the other end. You've embarrassed me. People at the club are asking questions. They're laughing at me. At me. There it was. The truth. It wasn't about me at all. It never had been. I laughed softly, though there was no humor in it. So, it's not about excluding your own daughter from Thanksgiving? It's about your reputation? Don't twist this, Chloe, he snapped. You could have told us. You could have included us. My grip on the phone tightened. Included you? Do you even hear yourself? You excluded me. You sent me a text saying I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving. And you think you deserve a seat at my table? Silence stretched between us. I could hear his breath, sharp and uneven. Finally, he said, you've always been difficult. Ever since you were little, with that mark on your face. You don't know how much I had to endure the whispers, the stares. You have no idea how hard it was to raise you. My heart hammered in my chest, but I forced the words out. You're right, I don't know how hard it was for you. But I do know how hard it was for me to be your daughter, and feel like a stain on every family photo. To hear my siblings praised while I was hidden in the corner. To be told I wasn't enough, year after year. He tried to interrupt, but I didn't let him. The dam had broken. You never once defended me. You never once called me beautiful or smart or worthy. You let Valerie and her perfect children push me aside like I was furniture. And when I built my own life, without you, you didn't ask how. You didn't care. You only care now because I proved you wrong. His voice cracked, just slightly. Chloe, I didn't know you felt that way. Didn't know? I almost shouted. I begged for your approval my entire life. And last week, you gave me your answer in 6 words. You're not welcome at Thanksgiving. Silence again. This time, longer. I could hear him breathing, slow and heavy, like he was finally carrying the weight I'd borne alone for years. I want to make this right, he said at last. You're still my daughter. We can start over. For a moment, a flicker of hope rose in my chest, the little girl in me still desperate for his love. But then I remembered the cold Thanksgivings, the whispered insults, the photo where he angled me out of sight. I pressed my hand to my cheek, tracing the birthmark that once felt like a curse. It pulsed warm under my palm, a reminder of who I had become. No, Dad, I said softly but firmly. You don't get to decide when I'm enough. You excluded me. Now I exclude the pain. He inhaled sharply, as if struck. Chloe, I hope you enjoy your perfect table, I cut in, because I've already built mine. And then, before he could answer, I hung up. I stood there, the phone still buzzing in my hand, waiting for guilt to wash over me. It didn't. Instead, a strange peace settled in my chest. For the first time, I wasn't the one begging for a place at his table. I was free. The call with my father ended like a door slamming shut. Yet, instead of the old ache, I felt something I'd never truly known before: peace. That evening, I walked the ranch grounds alone. Snow dusted the tips of the evergreens, and the lake mirrored the twilight sky in shades of silver and blue. The great hall still smelled faintly of roasted turkey and spiced pies. The table was empty now, but the warmth of yesterday's laughter clung to the walls. I touched my cheek, fingers brushing the birthmark I once wished away. For years it felt like a curse, the reason I was unloved, unworthy. Now, it felt different. Not a stain, an emblem. A reminder that I had survived the coldness of those who should have loved me, and built something stronger from it. I sat at the head of the long table and whispered into the stillness. Family isn't where I was born. Family is who shows up for me. Ashley's laughter from the guest room drifted down the hall, and I smiled. She had shown up. Brooke had shown up. Marcus, Luis, Maria, all of them had chosen to sit at my table. Not out of obligation, but out of love. I realized then that I didn't need my father's approval. I didn't need Ethan's smug acceptance or Lily's apologies. I already had more than they ever gave me. I had respect, I had loyalty, I had love. As the last light faded, stars scattered across the mountain sky, I stepped outside onto the balcony. The air was cold, sharp, alive. I raised a glass of wine to the horizon. To new beginnings, I said softly. The world below was silent, but my heart was not. It beat steady, free. For the first time, I understood. My father's table had never been mine. But here, in the heart of the mountains, surrounded by people who saw me, I had built one of my own. And it was beautiful.